Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, independent financial advisor and owner of Elevation Financial. Thanks for joining me today. I'm glad you're here as always. So what does a financial advisor actually do? I thought it'd be a great thing to talk about today. A lot of times, like many professions, not just mine, but many professions, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, kind of under the hood, that is not as publicly visible as other stuff. And so we often kind of wonder, hey, what does this person that's in this job actually do? What's their job? With a financial advisor, specifically what I do, a lot of times it's not quite as visible. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that happens. There's a lot of things that are kind of moving parts behind the scenes. And our profession is a little bit mysterious, I think, to some people. Not everybody really knows what we do. Some people have different misconceptions or different ideas about what we do. And it's not really helped by the fact that the industry is not super consistent anyway. So that's actually a great segue into what I want to start with, which is let's start by just talking about the term financial advisor to begin with. So this is a term that is not necessarily protected in title very well. Pretty much anybody that does something remotely in the financial space could call themselves a financial advisor. People that sell insurance sometimes do, actual, real financial planners like I am really do. And in between, there's all sorts of levels of what people do and how much service they provide. And they're all sort of lumped in together in this, financial advisor category. So what I'm talking about when I say financial advisor is people that are in the industry like myself who do financial planning, who do investment management, and who provide a certain kind of level of service and comprehensive holistic service to their clients. So when I say financial advisor, that's what I'm referring to. I'm not referring to just kind of like the person that does just, strictly investments and sets up IRAs and that's basically it, or the insurance person. I'm talking about, again, people that are kind of doing what I do, which is I'm a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor, which means I am by law required to put my client's interests ahead of my own, which is the way it should be. But, we have a law for that now for certain cases. So, that's what I'm referring to when I say financial advisor is people that do what I do, comprehensive financial planning and investment management at a certain level of service. And so that is what I'm referring to with the term financial advisor. So what does a financial advisor actually do? So this is not a complete list. There will be stuff I've forgotten. There'll be stuff I've left out, stuff that, I'm just not even thinking of because there's so many little details that happen in my profession, like a lot of jobs and a lot of professions. But this is a reasonable list of things that might, answer some of the questions of, hey, what do you actually do? What's your job? What's your day look like? What kind of stuff do you do? So one thing, a lot of my day is, devoted to client appointments. Just meeting with clients is a big portion of what I do. And that involves lots of different things, but a lot of it is sharing advice. I mean, we're financial advisors and we're in the business of giving advice, of sharing advice and helping people with our advice. And so a lot of times it's talking over, questions, talking over financial situations. A lot of it initially is setting up a financial plan. So for example, if a client signs on with me, then the first thing I'm going to do is set up a financial plan with them. That involves 3 meetings typically for me. And so in the first meeting, I'm going to help them gather information together. In the second meeting, we're going to talk about goals and objectives. In the third meeting, we're going to review the plan in place and kind of talk about implementation steps going forward. So that's 3 client meetings right there. And then after that, I prompt periodic review meetings as well. So 3 times a year, I reach out. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, and as far as like what it looks like to work with me. And this will be a little bit different, but there's some similarities. And I'm going to kind of touch on that. I reach out 3 times a year for a review, and that is to do things like keep our financial plan up to date, review your insurance needs, see if any updates need to be made, make sure your insurance coverage is still appropriate, review any estate planning needs, make sure your will is up to date and your estate planning documents are in order, your beneficiaries are all correct, maybe there's no updates to be made there. Review your credit report, your budget, talk about budget planning and coaching, review your goals, and also generally just provide a sounding board and advice and Q&A and encouragement to move forward with your financial goals. So client meetings are a big portion of what we do, is meeting with clients and talking them through situations and brainstorming with them. And with my clients, I'm helping them make financial decisions, and I'm giving them suggestions and advice on what actions to take to benefit them the most financially. So client meetings are a big portion of what we do, and that's visible. That's a visible part of what we do. That's really easy to say, oh yeah, my financial advisor meets with me, and that's what they do. And we talk over stuff and answer questions, and they give me advice and recommendations. So a lot of those are on-demand sessions as well. A lot of times if a client just has a question about buying a house or buying a thing, or taking a financial leap in a new career or something, or making some decision, they'll book on-demand meetings, or maybe they just need budget coaching. They can book on-demand meetings. And a lot of my time is also spent with that. Is when clients will book a meeting, it shows up on my calendar. We chat about a topic. We work through that topic. We work through that challenge, that financial thing that's in their life coming up, and that's a big part of what I do as well. So that's all rolled into client meetings. Next, something else I do, which is kind of a part of the financial planning process, is I maintain a vault of important information for my clients. So I have a folder structure in my financial planning portal, and I provide a place to kind of hold important documents that maybe they lose track of sometimes. A lot of us we get busy, we get disorganized. So I hold my clients' tax returns there for the past few years. I hold their insurance documents. I hold their estate planning documents. I hold, account statements, things like that, just various business documents even. So stuff where, if they need to get a hold of a document, like I've provided them a vault where they can have access to that. So not everyone's great at being organized and keeping all the documents in place. So I provide a place and a structure for that to happen as well. So that's kind of part of what I do. A big part of what I do, and people in my profession do, is continuing education. So a lot of my time is spent on learning, just constant learning. Every single day, for the most part, I am learning something. I am digesting information. Most recently, a couple days ago, I just attended a webinar on the new COVID legislation that has got passed, and the stimulus package, and all of the ins and outs of the tax ramifications of those things. And so that's a really recent webinar I attended that was very much a deep dive into here's the changes, here's how it applies to your clients, here's how it applies to planning going forward the next year or so. And that's an example of continuing education. I'm always enrolled in some certification program or some sort of continuing education for the most part. There's a cryptocurrency certification program coming up that's going to be released, I think, next week, and I'm already enrolled in that, for example. So there's always stuff that we're learning. There's always new stuff to kind of figure out. There's new ways to do things. There's new laws getting passed. There's new ways to approach investing. So that's a big part of what we do, is that continuing education. Also conferences. Every year I go to the XY Planning Network conference. Last time it was virtual. This year I believe it will be in person. And that's a big part of what I do as well, is to attend conferences for more continuing education and learning from peers and experts in the field. A lot of it's also investment research. So along with continuing education is investment research. So an example of that is I keep track of what's going on in the leadership of different mutual funds. So fund managers, for example, a fund I use a lot recently had a change in fund management. One of the fund managers is leaving, a new fund manager is taking his place, and I'm going to research that fund manager. I'm going to research the backgrounds of the people managing these funds and what their philosophies are and track records, and that's a big part of what I do, because that may make a difference in whether I continue to use that fund in my portfolios. I do ESG research. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. These are factors that allow you to invest your money in a way that aligns with certain values, certain environmentally friendly values, socially responsible values. And it's still a pretty new field. It's still not very mature. And so there's a constantly changing landscape of ESG and social impact investing. And so part of what I do is stay up to date on research and what funds are available, what the ESG factors are, and staying up to date on what's available in the ESG space. Also, general market conditions. That's part of the investment research that I do, and a lot of people in my position do, is general market research. For example, in certain time periods, you want to take a look at, is this particular sector or this industry, does it make sense to be tilted toward that industry or away from that industry? And so we want to kind of keep track of what's going on in the market in certain industries, certain sectors, and be aware of what's going on so that we can make decisions based on how to tilt investment portfolios accordingly. So a lot of what I do and financial advisors in general do is continuing education and research, both just general planning, laws, legislation, taxes, and investment management research as well. So also a big part of what I do is peer mastermind involvement. It's kind of an awkward way of saying it. so one example is I'll say working through cases with a peer community is really a better way to say it. So every week, for example, I meet with, for about an hour to an hour and a half, I meet with a small group of other advisors that are in a mastermind group together. And pretty much every week, we're bringing a case to the group to say, hey, I've got this case. I've never encountered this thing before. What would you do in this situation? Can we talk through it? Obviously, anonymously, we don't share client names or anything, but we say, hey, I've got a client that has this, these student loans and this particular, thing coming, this income's doing this and starting a business over here. And how would you handle approaching planning in this case? And we would talk through it and really help each other figure out the best way to approach these certain cases with the collective wisdom of the group. And so my mastermind group every week of other advisors is incredibly valuable. I'm also involved in online forums and communities with other financial advisors. And a lot of what we do is to do the same. We ask questions and do the same thing and kind of talk over cases with each other and share information. So a lot of peer and community and mastermind discussions are part of the time we spend on getting better at serving our clients. Because again, I want to make sure that I am doing my best to provide the best possible information for my clients and giving them the best possible advice. Another part of what financial advisors do is investment management. Not all advisors do investment management, but most do. So I'll just kind of default to saying most of us do actually manage investments. And so a big part of that is choosing investments that are suitable for you. So if you're a client of mine or a client of a financial advisor, I or that person is going to choose investments that make sense for you. Ones that are appropriate for the facts of your life, your age, your income, the stuff going on in your life financially. And we're going to choose investments that make the most sense for you. We're going to try to maximize return and minimize risk for you. We want to make sure that, we get you the best return possible based on, what your profile kind of aligns with. At the same time, we're going to try to minimize risk. We're going to try to make sure that we minimize risk that you're taking on. So we're going to try to balance that for you. We're also going to monitor and update your investments based on market conditions. So if market conditions change in such a way that it makes sense to alter your investments in a different mix or different sector tilts or different ratios, we're going to do that to help maximize that return and minimize that risk, of course. Kind of goes with it. This is a big part of it. A big part of what we do is not apparent until the market takes a nosedive or crashes or something crazy happens or we get a big, recession or something. So this is where you might go for a while without talking to your financial advisor, and then suddenly the market crashes and you freak out, right? So a lot of what we do is to provide a sounding board and a grounding voice during market turmoil. And one of the simplest things that we do that has the biggest impact is to say, don't sell your investments. For example, if the market's going down, a lot of people get tempted to say, sell everything off at the bottom. And they just say, I'm out, I'm done with the market. And a lot of what we do is try and talk people off the ledge, so to speak, and say, hey, if you sell now, you're locking in these losses. Stay the course, stay plugged in. And when it comes back, you'll be happy that you held on to your investment and didn't go to cash right as the market hit the bottom. Because instinctively, emotionally, this is what a lot of people do. They go to cash, they sell everything off at the bottom of the market. And then when the market goes back up, they've locked in those losses and it's too late. So it's a very simple, kind of ethereal thing, but just having someone to be a logical, grounded sounding board for you to help you avoid making irrational decisions that are harmful to you is a big part of the value of a financial advisor and a big part of what we do. Along with that, following one more thing we do with investment management specifically is following a process to keep your investments in sync with where you are in life. So every year, I focus on, I invite my clients for a review meeting. We focus on, okay, let's change. Let's update your financial profile, update your plan, and let's make sure your investments match where you should be. And a lot of times they're good, they're in sync. Other times we make changes. Maybe something has changed. We're going to alter the mix. We're going to alter the way the investment portfolio is put together based on what's changed in your life, or maybe the fact that we're getting closer to retirement age or something like that. Rebalancing is needed as well. So rebalancing is bringing your portfolio back to the proper ratio so that we're not skewing too far when, maybe you're this fund outperformed the other funds in there, and therefore you're really tilted toward this one fund. You want to kind of get back to the original ratio because there's a reason we have that ratio in place. So rebalancing as needed is a big part of what we do. And also watching for opportunities. We're looking for opportunities to benefit our clients in a lot of ways. And one big example of that is Roth contributions and Roth conversions. So it's a little more in depth, and we can't go too far into it right now. But one example would be, so many clients I talk to come to me with no Roth contributions happening. They're all pre-tax, and we look at the scenario, and long term, it's going to be incredibly beneficial for them to switch those contributions to Roth. And we kind of illustrate what that looks like and the amount of growth you're going to have tax-free. And they would have never made that change if we hadn't had that conversation. So one thing we can do is identify the specific issues and specific actions you can take that can have just exponential impact in a positive way later on. Roth conversions could be a big part as well. So, maybe you've got some money sitting in a traditional IRA account, and I can identify, because let's say you're a software developer or you're a business owner, or there's some indication that I can tell that in a few years your income is going to go over the limit for direct Roth contributions. And if you have traditional money sitting in a traditional IRA, then that's going to kind of throw a wrench in your ability to do a backdoor Roth to get that Roth contribution in there in a roundabout way. So I'm going to say, hey, before you reach that point, let's convert your traditional IRA to a Roth, pay the taxes now on it. And then in the future, you'll have a clean path to doing backdoor Roth IRAs when your income goes over that threshold of direct Roth contributions. If all that sounded like gobbledygook and jargon, just suffice to say, there's little moving parts when it comes to pre-tax, post-tax types of accounts that my job is to watch out for that and to predict when we're going to need to take certain actions to clear the path for the contributions that we want to make in the future based on what your income trend looks like. So part of it is, again, my job is to watch out for that stuff and to kind of look toward the future and forecast what's going to happen, and then make decisions now and give you suggestions now that will help you clear the path to efficiency later on and the right best benefit later on. Income phase outs, we just talked about. Yeah, when your income phases out, what do we do then? Tax efficiency. Part of my job is to make sure that we identify the most tax efficient investments in certain types of accounts. A lot of people don't realize, hey, if I'm using a taxable brokerage account, sometimes ETFs make a lot more sense than mutual funds. And which ETFs do I choose? And what's the turnover rate look like? And, does that play a part? And part of my job is to identify those so that you minimize your taxes based on what account you're putting your investments in and what types of investments go into that account. So finally, I'm going to kind of end with a section that is fairly valuable in my opinion. And it's not so much the number crunching part of it, but a lot of what financial advisors do and what I do personally as well is the client accountability and the client follow-up and the gentle, friendly, partnership themed nudge that we provide on a consistent basis. That's through, monitoring open to-do items, following up and encouraging action. So I would say almost 100% of the time when my clients work with me, they've been kind of coasting through life, doing okay, but they aren't necessarily monitoring their financial situation or taking actions along the way that are consistent progress toward a goal. They're just kind of doing their thing, having an okay time and, making money, and nothing's really wrong or painful. But as we start working together, part of what my job is to do is to say, let's talk about goals on a regular basis, at least once a year. Let's create objectives that align with those goals. Then I follow up and say, hey, did you get this done? If not, how can I help? Do you want to talk about this? What's some things we can do to make this happen? And to provide gentle encouragement to, make those contributions, for example, get that insurance updated, get that will in place, look for these tax ways to reduce taxes and take actions to do that Roth conversion. Next year, look out for the new things coming up. Let's look out for, potential tax legislation. Let's make contributions for this year now. So all this stuff, a lot of people would not do on their own. And that is what part of what a financial advisor does, is to encourage and coach people through taking actions that they would not normally do on their own. And that is incredibly valuable. It's a little bit of theory, a little bit fluffy. It's not so much pulling out spreadsheets and messing with numbers. It's a little more fluffy, but it's incredibly valuable because so much of the time, progress toward financial goals is not about spreadsheets. It's about simply taking action. And part of what a financial advisor does is to be that cheerleader in your corner, someone who is monitoring things and paying attention to your money and reaching out and saying, okay, let's make sure we're paying attention to your money and let's work on progress toward goals so that you're getting to where you want to go and you're making the best decisions with your money. So that right there, I think, is probably the most valuable, that's why I wanted to end with that because it's, I think, the most useful to most people. So if you're ever wondering what a financial advisor does, that's a non-comprehensive but fairly reasonable list of things that we do. A lot of it's behind the scenes. Again, just to recap, a lot of client appointments, a lot of client conversations. That's more visible and kind of above the waterline. You can kind of see what we do there. But then below the waterline, under the iceberg, a lot of it is maintaining documents and current documents, researching continuing education. So we're getting better and staying on top of trends, working through your cases with our peer communities and making sure they're getting the best possible advice. A lot of investment management and rebalancing and investment research, watching out for actions you can take that benefit you the most from a tax standpoint or future forecasting standpoint. And then the accountability, the client accountability and coaching and prompting that helps people take action they wouldn't normally take without external stimulus and external encouragement. So that's a lot of what we do. And Alyssa popped in to say that she agrees with me that nudging and accountability is invaluable. So I'm glad you agree. Thank you. That's the most valuable, I think, is that nudging and that accountability. That's a lot of what goes into helping people find success. So thanks, Alyssa. Appreciate you saying that. All right. So with that, hope that kind of unpacks the box a little bit. Seems to maybe make it seem a little bit less mysterious. Give you an inside view into what we do. Again, there's more stuff, but that's a short list of stuff that makes up a lot of what we do on a day-to-day basis in a general kind of service basis. So with that, as always, you know where to find me. I'm easy to find, and I would love to chat. My invitation is always open to go to my website, which is elevationfinancial.com. There's a big friendly button on the homepage that says book a complimentary money session. And that's exactly what it says. It's complimentary, and it is a money session, which means that you can bring questions. I will answer those questions as best I can. I will talk through challenges with you, hopefully give you some feedback that will give you something valuable to act on. And if you want to work with me after that, you can. If not, you don't have to, but I'm strictly doing it to provide some help and in a complimentary money session for you. So feel free to book that if you'd like. I'd love to chat with you. So with that, have a great day. Glad you were here. See you next time. All right, podcast recording is off. Thanks so much for the live viewers who are here today. Really appreciate you being here. And as always, see you next week at 1:30 Eastern on Tuesday. Have a great day.